All right, now let's bring in a legal analyst, Reitumetse Phiri, who joins us now via video link. Thank you so much and good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for your time. So the legal battle between the IEC and the MK party continues now, and the IEC says the MK's bid to nullify the elections bears no evidence of material irregularities. Just talk to us about what has been your observations in these cases, that have been launched by the MK party.
Good afternoon, Onati, and good afternoon to the viewers. I think, the IEC's response to the MK party's case is actually spot on, because initially when we did see the MK party's papers, it was very clear that there was literally no evidence to substantiate the allegations of vote rigging with respect to the elections, and also the evidence that they had attached, which was a document which purported to analyze where there could have been shortcomings in the electoral process, was not actually worth the paper it was written on. So it was always clear that this application by the MK party was going to become unhinged the moment the IEC had a clear and reasonable explanation for what it says the MK represented in respect of its election data. And it looks like there is an explanation that actually is meritorious. And in this respect, I don't expect this MK party application to succeed.
I mean, do you think that they will possibly, and can they at this point in time, bring in more substantiated evidence? Because, they keep on saying that, the allegations are serious and, they support their claim. They've attached analysis in their papers alleging voter discrepancy, and they speak of the 9 million votes that cannot be accounted for.
At this stage of the court proceedings, it's not possible to bring any more evidence given the nature of the proceedings. These are proceedings that are going to be decided on the papers. No witnesses are going to be called to the box and cross-examined. And they actually had one chance, which was to set out their case in full in their founding affidavit. Not only is the evidence that has been attached to the founding affidavit weak, but also they face procedural hurdles. They haven't complied with the Electoral Act. They haven't complied with the time periods within the Electoral Court for bringing this application. Not all the parties that are meant to be before the court have been joined to the application. So there are some other issues with the application before you even get to the merits, which will ensure that, there's nothing that the MK party can do at this particular instance. Certainly if they try and introduce additional evidence, it will be met with resistance from the IEC, given the nature and the manner in which these proceedings unfold.
And just speaking and looking at the time frame, is it constitutionally possible at this point to nullify the results, given that these elections happened on the 29th of May, so that's almost a month ago, and also given, as you've said, the time frames at which political parties had been given to address some of these disputes with the Electoral Court?
Yeah, I think for this particular dispute, I don't think we'll end up in a situation where that's even a remote possibility. But there could be a hypothetical situation where a person is genuinely aggrieved and there's genuine issues with the elections, and they've pursued that objection through the Electoral Commission and then through the Electoral Court, and then eventually through maybe a court like the Constitutional Court, and it takes as long as it takes, right? So if we had a scenario like that, it could be that we could have ended up in a situation like today where that could still be an outcome from the court process. But certainly insofar as this court process is concerned, that's not a realistic outcome at all.
And just looking at, what's currently happening in KwaZulu-Natal with the appearance of that electoral commissioner in terms of, ballot tampering. Again, the MK party, of course, reiterating that, it does intend to approach the International Court over the alleged rigging of last month's elections, but of course, obviously being spearheaded by this particular appearance in the Pietermaritzburg Magistrate's Court. Just perhaps weigh in on how strong this particular case is that we are seeing in KZN.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see the details of those as they emerge. I think there is an important aspect of materiality. Yes, to the extent that those allegations are confirmed and it is true that somebody has tampered with ballots, etc., that is something serious. But the question whether that affects the election in a material way will always weigh in on the question of what do you do with an outcome like that. I do not believe that an approach to the international courts is one that will be well taken because, in all honesty, the MK party has not ventilated this matter through the South African courts, and it would beg the question, how would then the international courts deal with the matter when the MK party has basically failed at each procedural hurdle, putting aside the merits in that kind of context. But I am interested to see what then happens in the KZN court in this particular matter of the ballot tampering.
I'm not sure if you can, just respond to how these court processes that we have been seeing, against the IEC are reflecting on the integrity of the IEC, particularly given, that whole confusion in as far as the voting figures on the results page of the IEC also, just added to the confusion, the animosity around it, and of course, the questioning around the integrity of the IEC.
Yeah, when I look at the MK party's application and just the lack of evidence and rigor around it, it leads one to a reasonable assumption that, it was never meant to be a serious legal challenge, and maybe it was creating room for a certain type of conversation around possibly the credibility of the IEC. But if one takes the answering affidavit of the IEC in this MK party matter, for instance, and reads it in thorough detail, I think it will be clear that there is an explanation for what's called the missing voting numbers from the MK party, and largely that explanation is that the MK party has misrepresented the IEC's data, and in many instances it's not clear where that data comes from. Secondly, there is an explanation for what happened in the 2 hours when the voting board was not available, and it seems like that's a reasonable explanation. So, I think it's unfortunate that there were such accusations leveled, and that as a result, one could look at the IEC with maybe a bit of a skewed eye. But I'm certainly, comforted by the manner in which the IEC has responded to the application and how they've actually taken us into their confidence with the electoral process and what has actually happened in answering the MK party's case.
So, Mr. Phiri, in terms of avenues that the MK party has, should this particular case go against them, what other avenues may they likely to take, and how do you think that will fare?
So they'll obviously have the ability to appeal to the Constitutional Court. This matter in front of the Electoral Court is one that is in large respects very much similar to the one that was dismissed by the Constitutional Court a few weeks ago. And if the case doesn't change and it's brought to the Constitutional Court on the same grounds and within the same four corners, then I anticipate that they won't fare well and the outcome will largely be exactly what we saw a couple of weeks ago.
Mr. Phiri, thank you so much for your time and, of course, just weighing in on this particular matter.